Our next presenter, Brian Strandberg. I met Brian a few years ago. I had a chance to kind of see behind the curtain on some of the magic that he was doing in his role as a CAD manager. And it was at that moment that I realized that Brian and I share an affinity for what I like to call productive laziness. In the community lounge earlier today, inevitably with a group of users like that, the topic of shortcuts is going to come up. And sure enough, we're talking about ways to streamline things. So Brian does some amazing stuff with technology to make his job as a CAD manager easier and to benefit the company. So I'm excited to have him share some of this information in this session that he's calling Effortlessly Manage Your CAD Computers with AutoLISP and Powershell. Brian's been in the CAD industry for many years and working on everything from the largest infrastructure projects in the nation to the small plat in your neighborhood. So Brian is currently the CAD manager for Boghausen Consultant Engineers in Kent, Washington, and he oversees about 200 users. So Brian, it's all yours. And everybody enjoy the session.
Thanks for the kind words, Chris. I really appreciate it. And I'm trying to start my...
There you go.
All right, there you go. Hey, everybody. My name is Brian Strandberg. Can you see my screen fine, just to confirm?
Yep, you're good.
All right, awesome. This is, again, Effortlessly Manage Your CAD Computers with AutoLISP and PowerShell data. Hopefully we can teamwork a better title for this if I ever do it again. Like Chris said, I'm the CAD manager at Boghausen Consulting Engineers. If you want to reach out, here's my contact info here. Yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and I guess the ultimate question is, what would you rather be doing if you had free time as a CAD manager? I've never heard a CAD manager say, I have too much free time. Maybe you'd like to be golfing, coaching the kids' soccer team, baking, or playing highlight, whatever it is. The ultimate goal of this presentation is to get you as a CAD manager more time. Okay, so this started because we had a user who was seeing this pop up quite a bunch for low memory on AutoCAD. So the question was, what was this due to? Do we have 200 Chrome tabs open? Is this a one-time issue or is it recurring? So let me tell you how we would diagnose this then.
Excuse me, Brian, can you share your screen?
Yeah, I thought I had it. There we go.
Great, thanks.
All right. So here's what we do. First, we would restart the computer and check the memory. Then we would call the user back in an hour and see what it was then. So we could try to get a trend. And then we would basically repeat this until we find out if it's a one-time issue or a recurring issue. So we decided then we needed a better system. So I want to get data on free system memory every time someone opens a CAD file. And we give a lot of other data as well. And then once we have this data organized, we can be proactive about issues and try to ask the user to change something before they run into an issue like that. So, do you need to be a computer programmer to do this? And I would say definitely no. I don't consider myself a computer programmer. I program computers just to try to, as kind of a side project, to try to make my day function better and be more proactive. So in case you're a non-programmer out there, here's my top 3 programming tools. Google. Google can answer just about any question you have. If Google can't answer it, one of the various forums out there, the Autodesk community forums, the AutoLISP forum, the swamp.org's great place to go. If you're still having trouble, there's a new one that's come out called ChatGPT. Oftentimes, though, ChatGPT won't know what you're talking about. I tried to have it help me write a program to generate a Julia fractal once, and it would keep inventing AutoLISP statements. So just if you're going to try to use a large language model to help you code, just consider it with like a grain of thought. So I usually program with a tool using Blade, not that one actually. It's this one. So in case you're not recognizing the screenshots, These are all going to be from the BricsCAD Lisp Advanced Development Environment or Blade. Excellent tool for writing Lisp code. It's helped me be more productive in doing what I do. Craig and Grant did a good presentation this morning on adapting BricsCAD into your environment. And as a CAD manager, it helps make my day easier. So you're asking yourself, I'm new to being a CAD manager. I haven't done a whole lot of coding. Should I do this? Now, I believe this is a very useful tool. It would not be the first thing I would do. I would write code to help standardize your AutoCAD profile setup. So there's Autodesk University class called Programming the Work Out of CAD Management. Great one. Craig did that a couple years ago, I believe. And that goes through how to write code to get your organization's CAD profile in sync. So when I started at my current job, that was a bit of a challenge, but just from the work, just from what I learned in that class, now it's basically a 2-minute thing whenever we have a new user start. So here's the link to that if you want to check that out. I highly recommend it. All right. So since the early days of programming in AutoCAD, people have been writing file logging programs. Usually they look fairly similar to this. We've got a date, we got a time, we got a drawing name. What we're going to do is we're going to supersize this to collect a whole lot more data. So I'm not going to read through all these, but in addition to getting the drawing name, current date and time, I want the AutoCAD version. So mine will return as Civil 3D 2024.3 or whatever version you happen to be using. I've tested this with a bunch of the AutoCAD verticals and they all work completely fine. I get CPU uptime, Windows login name, sheet set name if someone's in a sheet set, autosave interval. I say percent setting, graphics card being used, graphics virtual device being used. That's either going to be DirectX 11, DirectX 12. If someone has hardware acceleration off, it's going to report as a Heidi driver. That way I can see if the hardware acceleration is on or off. Then I pivot over to PowerShell. I look at the free physical memory. I check the Windows temp folder size. And then I'll show you some options if you want to collect some more information from your system environment, such as the CPU, processor name, operating system version, etc. So once this is run on all throughout your organization, it's basically going to copy the final CSV file to a server folder that's saved in the code. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into Excel and I'm going to create a master index of all of these different log files throughout our organization. So from this, I can do a quick chart on, hey, what versions of CAD are being used. So I can quickly see, well, I can see someone here with Civil 3D 2024 Scratch. They need an update. So the ultimate goal is to try to be proactive and prevent issues from happening. And we do that with Power Automate. When we have the data in Excel, I can then go in and click a button to send, hey, restart your computer. Hey, your temp folder size is way too big. Let's clear that out. And we'll go through that here a little bit. So back to the start, I'm going to look at the file logging code here. So I've written this as a bunch of different subroutines. Someone who's maybe new to code can implement these. And it's easier to go through in a presentation environment. My working code runs actually a little bit better. It's a little more condensed than this. So first we define a function called track drawing info. So I quickly get the drawing name and the date time that they open the drawing. Then we run this tracks get service pack function that will get us the vertical information or the stock AutoCAD information. That gets a little bit more detailed than just the ACAD ver system variable. I didn't actually write this version of it. I found this from the Autodesk, one of the Autodesk community forums. There's is the link to that and the user that actually posted that. So then we go into the defining the uptime function. This runs a little bit different than just running a menu command. In our organization, we have this display a warning if it's over a certain amount of days uptime on the user screen. So then we have a subroutine here. This gives us the sheet set data. And then we have a couple of miscellaneous ones. We gather the save time, and then the iSave percent setting. We used to set the iSave, set the save time setting for our users to a certain number of minutes. After the pandemic, and we realized certain different people have different environments, we allow the users to change that themselves, but I may ask them to change it when I look at the data. Okay, getting the graphics card information. This is one area I would like to improve on. I can get the graphics, I'm gonna scroll forward a slide here. I can get the graphics card name through the registry, but I haven't figured out how to get the driver version or the virtual device. So if you actually know of a better way I can do that, hey, please share that with me. I'm always looking to learn more and improve, and that's why Augie's such a great organization. So in this case, what I do is I run the graphics config command and I export a tuner log. This goes to my local folder, and then the rest of this list code loads that tuner file and extracts the graphics card name, the driver version, and the virtual device. So that this is one area that could potentially change in the future. I haven't tested this on the Autodesk 2025 products. I've been pretty busy this month, but if they ever change the format of that tuner log file, this will need to get a little more detailed. So, okay, yeah, there's that tuner log file. By the way, I haven't figured out what some of these settings do. If you know any more about that, I'd be interested to hear. So then we're pivoting from AutoLISP to PowerShell. And I'm sure if you're looking at this, you're probably wondering, can I run PowerShell scripts in my organization's environment? So your organization has set a PowerShell execution policy, and it's going to be one of these here. So essentially what this means is if you're in all signed, you're basically good. But the way we're going to do it is we're going to run these at the lowest level we can. So it'll work in as large of an environment as we can. So let's take a look here. If I go to the Windows command line, and you'll need to be able to access the Windows command line to run these, I can just type in PowerShell -command, quote, get execution policy, close quote, and it'll come back with restricted. So if I go up once here again and see what restricted says, it'll say I can run individual PowerShell commands, but not the script files. So I'm basically great because I'm going to run all my PowerShell commands in this format here. So they run directly from the Windows command line. You don't need to have permission to run PowerShell scripts to do this. So essentially to do that at the Windows command line, I just do PowerShell -command, and then in quotes, I put the PowerShell command I want to run. Okay, so as a result of that, we've written a batch file here that will gather the data I want. So if I look at lines 1 and 3 here, this just echoes the statement test to the file just to make sure it exists. Then with line 2 here, we go PowerShell exe command, and then a whole bunch of gibberish, but what it's checking for is the free physical memory. And then it saves that as that freemem.txt file. Same thing with the temp folder size. Now, one warning about this is your temp folder size, if it's relatively large, this will take a while to execute. Typically, this code runs all in under a second. If you have a very large temp folder, a Windows temp folder, that may run into a few seconds because it has this recurse statement here to go through all the different folders under the Windows temp file. And then this saves that out as temp folder size.txt. Okay, then we have a little subroutine in Lisp, which will run that batch file, line 61 here. And then what we do in line 62 is we just read those files in, we extract and set that variable track free memory to free memory in gigabytes. And then we do the same thing with the temp folder size. So from this, we get the data, we get those 2 critical bits of data. Can you have this, I see a question here from Corey. Can you have this run and check the size of other folders? Yeah, you could totally do that in your organization. If you're concerned about a certain folder size running too big. In this case, I'm checking the size of the folder. Later on, I can show you how to check the free memory on the system. So there is another option out there, and I'm just kind of throwing this out here in case anybody knows how to get this to work with Lisp. It's called Windows Management Instrumentation. I haven't had great success with it. If you have, I'd be very interested in seeing it. Kevin, I see you posted a question about there's a lot of links in the PowerPoint. We will be sharing links, and I'll have a handout for this as well. So now we go into the main function here, which what this does is this opens the file to your local folder called Track My Time. This runs all of our different subroutines, including the PowerShell data one. And then we basically just write this information out to a CSV file. And then continuing that, as far as copying this to the server, we just basically delete the existing one on the server, which is going to be loginname.csv. And then we copy the Track My Time to the server folder, and again, name that just loginname.csv. So my login name is B Strandberg. When I go to the server, it's going to be bstrandberg.csv. Now, I also define this track view function here. This is if you want to look at your local data, you can use this command here. And this will just basically bring it up in a program called CSV File View. I will be sharing that when we have the link up to post that to. So their license will let us share that as long as we don't make any changes to it. And I'll demo that here in a little bit. So for loading the program, I just add this to my organization's CUI. I've created a CUI file for this class. And then if you need more about that, you can add it to your ACAD doc, or you can read more about loading AutoLISP files. I'm assuming most CAD managers, the audience for this, know how to do that. All right, so let's go into viewing the data as a user. I'm going to hop into Civil 3D here real quick. Too many windows open. There we go. So I have my little and let's just shrink that down a little bit. I have my little CUI I've created for this class, so I could just go in here and go to the track view command. This brings up my data. So I can see the drawing name. If I ever want to reopen a specific drawing, I can go ahead and just double click on it, copy that path, go ahead and paste it into the open command. So you can see I'm getting my patch version, getting my uptime, iSave %, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We will go through here a little bit how to aggregate this data for all your users. All right, so let's switch over to here. And I give you a suggestion, just go ahead and if you just have this do original file order descending, your newest file will be on the top of that when you go to it. Okay, so what do we do with all this data? What I have is, and by the way, all of these email addresses on here are fake. So don't bother trying to email any of these people. But now that I get the data and everybody has a file on the server, I aggregate all this data in Excel. So what we just do is we create a data link to our Excel sheet to the CSV file, or we load all those CSV files into Excel, and I'll do that here in a little bit. And then what I've done is I find it most useful to colorize all these rows by license type. So wait a second, license type. Where do we get license type? Basically, I just went in the manage.autodesk.com portal, export all of my users report, and then I just have that in there as a tab in the spreadsheet. So then we could just do an XLOOKUP function in Excel, and it will go and retrieve the license type for each one of my users. I spent way too much time in the PowerPoint zone. I do not like the PowerPoint zone when I'm doing bigger presentations. It just tends to be a reading of slides. So let me go over to Excel. Let's see here. Trying to find the right one. So many windows open. There we go. So here's the one we were just looking at in that slide a little bit ago. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new user in here to go through the process we use. So essentially that user's export just all goes here. So I can see what license everybody has. I can make counts of that, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new user, and I'm going to add myself. So when you go into the data section in Excel, we're going to use the from text CSV. This will add a new tab to your spreadsheet directly preceding your active tab. So I'm going to add a row for myself here. So I'm going to go to this tab. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go data from text CSV. And I'm going to go in, I'm going to be loading it from our active folder because I've got the code a little bit different there. So I'm just going to go to track CSV. I need to find the user. In this case, it's going to be me. And then up is going to bring the Power Query editor. And there's several things we want to do with this data before we just dump it into Excel. So I'm going to go to the transform data function. Okay, you can see I've got a couple of test ones I did before, but that shouldn't be a problem. First thing you can notice is I have this I have the oldest data in row 1. I want that to be the newest data in the function. So I'm going to go over to the transform tab here, and I'm just going to use reverse rows. That means when I'm linking to a cell to read this data, I can just go to the first or second one. I don't have to go to number 5,000. So I'm going to go back over the home tab, and I'm going to tell it to keep the top rows. Since I've reversed the data, and the order you do these steps, if you're not familiar with the Power Query Editor, is very important. So now that I've reversed the rows, I just want to keep the last 500 rows. When you're aggregating data across your organization, you need to use this to restrict it somehow. So what this will do now is this will just give me the latest 500 rows in my worksheet. So I'm going to go to close and load here. And I'm going to actually just rename this. And then I'm going to go back over to my users tab. And I just need to add a new row. And I'm just going to load this B Strandberg. Excuse me, I need to use an X lookup here, actually. No, I need to put my email address in there. So that's my email address in there. And then I just need to link to each of these cells. This takes me like, 2 minutes when setting up a new user. So you can see here, I'm running 2025.01. I'm going to go ahead and pull this to the right here. And that I've got a little mismatch with the data there, but probably because I'm running different versions of the code. Our production code is a little different than the one we have going in this conference. So from here, I can get information like you can see here. I'm often looking at the temp folder size. I'm looking at the free amount of RAM. And this user in this case is a pretty intensive RAM user. I can see what the iSafe percent is, video card. Again, if they're using a hardware acceleration off, it will report usually GDI 16.HIDE, or it'll report here DirectX 11, DirectX 12 if hardware acceleration is on. Then I can go and do things like track the number of file opens they've done, and I do this within a specific date range. So if I just want to see what they've done over the past week, I can just go ahead and just change this to the 8th, and then you can see, well, we got some fairly old data in the spreadsheet, so it's not fully updated. So now if I scroll to the right, I have a little synopsis of all this data, and I use this in Power Automate. So if I want to send this user a notice that his uptime is really high and he needs to restart his computer, I'm just going to go over the data tab in Excel and go to flow. And by the way, I'm gonna replace this here with my actual email address. So you can see what this comes in as a user side. So you can see here, I've already created a Power Automate for this spreadsheet called CPU uptime warning. I go ahead and here and hit run. It'll ask me for a confirmation. I could just say, go ahead and had a flash on the email address. So this will just go ahead and send an uptime warning to the user that they need to restart their computer. So I'm going to go ahead and create another one here. I haven't done this enough times, but I'm hoping I can go ahead and create a new flow here to add that temp folder size warning. So by the way, in order to use Power Automate in this fashion, you need to have your Excel file hosted online. So in this case, this is in the Microsoft environment. You can install Power Automate for your local computer if you just want to have the file saved locally. I find it's easy enough to put these online. So I'm just going to go over here and go flow. Let's go new flow. And I'm going to go instant cloud flow. Okay, so in this case, that is, I want to send a email for a row. In this case, it wants to ask where we're hosting this file. It's on OneDrive. We're going to go to the document library, also OneDrive. The file, it's going to be this one here, which is CAD users. And then it's going to want to go for a table. You need to have your data formatted in a table in order to do this. So in this case, I've already set that up. In this case, it's just called table 9. So I'm going to go to the next step. I'm going to stretch this out so it's a little easier to see. So I'm going to go into, in this case, we're going to send an email for a selected row. I'm going to go into OneDrive. Okay, I don't think this is where I want to be. Let me try this again here. If I can't get this to work, and I haven't done it enough times in presentation mode, let's see if we can do this. Oh yeah, here we are. I'm going to use this template they have set up here to select an send an email for a selected row. In this case, it's going to connect to Excel Online, Office 365 Outlook. We go ahead and hit OK here. So we need to do the same prompts we did earlier. And select table 9, which is this table here I have formatted in Excel. And then I can just go ahead and, all right. So in this case, we don't want to use the just straight email. We want to use the field we have in our table called our email. So let me find that here, our email. So let me scratch this out. The subject, I can just put a automated temp file warning. And then I can just put in here that I see your temp file is very large at, and then we can select that this temp folder size field here in Excel. And then I would go ahead and continue this and include instructions on how to clear your temp folder. How to clear temp folder. So let's just go ahead and hit save. And I probably should have created this in the slideshow, but I get tired of actually just reading those slides after a while. So I didn't name this very well. So it's still just send an email for a selected row. I'm going to go ahead and run this. It's going to tell me it's going to connect to these two services again. And it crashed on my email, but I'm just going to. I will have this information in the handout. So you can just follow that rather than the presentation I'm slightly botching up here. But this really saves me a ton of time because I can go about being proactive for the issues based on the data I see. If I go ahead and look at my actual production spreadsheet, which I'm going to bring over here, it's slightly different setup. Now I've gone ahead and obscured all of our users' contact information here. But you can see I get data for all of our people. And then to refresh that data, I can just go over here and go refresh all. Really quick, really straightforward. I don't have any trouble with it. With the amount of people I'm working with, which is like about 120, and 500 rows of data for each person, it takes about 2 minutes to update this. So I just update this throughout the day, and then when I want to look at it, I can. Now, the other thing I can do is if, let's say a person is reporting stability issues or something like this, I can go to their tab here and look at each file they've been in, each folder they've been in, and look for any issues that way. So let's go back to PowerPoint. So let's talk about an example usage. I had a ticket here a while back. It was, hey, my CAD's been running really slow the last couple of days. Is there anything we can do to improve on this? So I can just immediately go to that spreadsheet and look at the data for the user and just generate a response based off this. I haven't gone to the point where I'm just generating that and copying Excel from Excel. But I can just say, hey, I can see your free RAM's running low. This can happen if you have several drawings open, memory hungry applications open. Again, the 200 Chrome tabs open. And then I can see your temp folder size is 10 gigabytes. I'm going to send you a separate email with the link to instructions to clear the temp folder. Really straightforward because I can just go ahead and push a button. And then the user reports later on that, hey, the system is performing significantly better after clearing all those temp files. So what other information can we get using Lisp? So if you go to the sysbearer dialog command, this is an express tool. You can go ahead and browse through all your system variables in AutoCAD and take a look at what you have and just make an idea of what you want to generate before you start doing this. So I always recommend just going through and going through a history of what your internal issues have been and what information you could pull out of that to make that better. So you can also get environment variables with the statement get environment or get env name. Just keep in mind these environment variables are case sensitive. So putting it in all lowercase isn't the same as putting it in all uppercase. So just keep that in mind. And the handout will have a link to where you can find a list of all those. So let's take a look at what else we can get out of our system using PowerShell. And let me check the Q&A here. Okay, I don't see any other Q&A statements right now. I'm going to go ahead and just escape this out and open a Windows command line. So again, when I'm running these, let me make this bigger. There we go. So if I want to find out what the free space is on drive C, I can just go ahead and copy this PowerShell statement, put it in my batch file. It'll give you a link back down to the byte. Pretty straightforward. I have another program I'm running, working on, I should say, and I want to know what CPU the user is running. I can go ahead and just run this statement, and I can see, okay, well, in this case, I'm on a Xeon 2.8 gig. Getting close to time for an upgrade on that. Let's see if I want to know the total installed memory on the system. I can run this statement. And I know this is a lot of gibberish, but we'll have it in the handout when we have those online. And I can see, okay, I'm running a 32 gigabyte system here. Operating system version. I think I might start tracking this in future ones because we've had issues with Windows updates kind of doing crazy things. So in this case, I can get the exact Windows version I'm on, which is 10.0.22631, if that means anything to you. And then I'm also going to run this one here, which is to get the computer model. In this case, you can also get the manufacturer with a slightly different statement. I'm on a Dell Precision 7740. So this statement here will also get you your list of all the Autodesk programs on your system. I'm going to open a text file here which shows you this. So if you're in the IT department for your organization, you may have access to tools like PDQ, which can get you this data. If you don't, this will go and just get you a list of all of your Autodesk programs. I'm going to go ahead and just bear with me a second here. I'm going to open a text file and show you what the output from mine is. This folder. So in this case, you can see, let me make this larger. It's pretty detailed what you can get out of it. So, let's say you want to make sure everyone installs Civil 3D 2022. when you make an upgrade to the next version. You can have this code run maybe when you update your system, or from time to time, and it'll just generate this as an output. This isn't something you would even need to run daily or weekly. But if you want to know what versions people have of all your Civil 3D stuff, this statement here is a pretty great way to do it. The other nice thing, the other piece of advice I can share is having a benchmark drawing to benchmark your system is a really great technique to try to stay ahead of issues. So oftentimes I may have a user call me and say, hey, my computer's slow. Okay, how slow is it? Well, it normally takes me 30 seconds to open this drawing, and now it's taking me 2 minutes. So what I have here is I just have a little script file, and I'll be sharing that when we post this information online, that will open a drawing, time how long it takes, and then let you get that data. So I really find having a hard number to quantify slow makes things a lot easier down the road when we're trying to, figure out how bad of an issue it is. So because for this class, excuse me 1 minute, I have everything hosted on my local drive. This will open pretty quick, but normally I would put this on my network location. So in this case, I have that come up, it opens a little batch file, and it tells me, okay, I ran this test today. Basically now, it took 4 seconds to open this drawing, and it gives the user a little bit of a pop-up. Then on the wrong command. Then on the administrator side, I can just go check results. I can go to check results. Well, this is where we find that we didn't do enough debugging of this ahead of time. Either that or I saved it and my command didn't update. Let me just go ahead and open the file manually. I'm just going to go to AugiCon server. Where did I put that file? Okay, I'm not sure where that file is, but basically it's a little tiny CSV file that just shows who opened it, how long it took. Not much complicated to it. But having that speed test available, it really helps narrow it down really fast whether, hey, is this an issue with the project being slow and we need to look at corrupt data, or we need to look at other information, or is this an issue where someone has a systemic issue making drawings open slowly? We had an issue here, an issue last week. Someone was saying my computer's slow. I had them do this test, and instead of it taking about 30 to 40 seconds to open the drawing, it was taking, I think, about 8 minutes. So it was pretty quick to see that there was a systemic issue with that. And right now this drawing is hosted on my local computer, so I can share all these files later. But normally I would have this locked down so this file never changes. So it always remains a stable benchmark. I see Chris posted the link to the environment variables here. I'll go ahead and pull that up here. I think I stole that from his class, Programming the Work Out of CAD Management. But yeah, this just goes through and gives you a list of all those different bits of information you can get from AutoCAD to gather information on your users. Maybe the user profile is that might be actually a pretty good thing to connect to, because you can quickly see if someone's using your company's standard profile or if someone decided to roll their own. Really quick way to track that down. Anyway, I'm available for questions now. I'm checking the chat here to see if any new ones came online or not, but I'm just going to hang on here if anybody's got any questions.
Thanks, Brian.
Come on, I know you have questions. You don't have to worry about being the first.
That's great stuff. I have one while we're waiting on some other people to chime in. In the run flow example you did in Excel, the email that it was generating that had all the fields in it, is that something that can be templatized or created as a template? So you can just choose a particular Well, they've got Excel templates shown there, but are those what you, I'm guessing you can create your own on the right-hand side.
Yeah, you can. Tell you what, I'll go to my production one.
So if you're
Uh,
wanting to do like a weekly report to yourself or to somebody else, perhaps.
well, I do break this down and analyze some of that data after that. And then I see Chad putting in a question. I'll come back to yours here in a sec, but the speed test button, how does it know to open the file that the user is having a problem with? This actually does not open the one, it's opening a standard file. So we can check to see if someone's having an issue where there's a slowdown in the system or with CAD just opening the file. Now, if the speed check comes back okay, then we would go and check the actual drawing that the user's having a problem with.
Good.
Can you please share your email address? I can bring up that slide here. So you guys can go ahead and just copy that. You can hit me at either one of these. My blog, by the way, is c3dk.com. I usually post on Civil 3D stuff because this is kind of a more involved topic to get out there. But yeah, you can go ahead and pull that from there. But yeah, tell you what, Chris, I'm going to go to my production one. I'm going to find myself in here.
Yeah, and Chad's question is a good one, just because it's often trying to determine whether the issue is a file related issue or a system related issue. And that's what tools will definitely help narrow down.
And that's the entire goal of this particular one. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna go back to my flow here. And I'm just gonna send myself a uptime warning. So send CPU high uptime warning. It's probably gonna have a few little glitches in here because I did this differently and I learned more about it as we go, as we all did. And then I should have an email pop up here. That's right, I closed Outlook. I didn't want people bugging me during the presentation. So let me go ahead and reopen Outlook. We should have that in our email box.
Tom was asking the question if there's a similar environment variable list for Civil 3D available anywhere. Do you know?
I do not. I know there's a bunch out there. Tom, would be curious to hear what you would be looking for on the Civil 3D side, because that's kind of where I live most of the day.
So this is the email that came from PowerFlow or from
this is the one that came from Power Automate.
Okay, excellent.
So it's giving me a warning and it's telling me what to do. It's telling me why to restart. And then in this case, my CPU uptime is actually kind of low. By the way, let me go ahead and show you one more thing in Excel. Since this is working based off what row you have selected, so basically you select the row, then you run the flow. Don't try to do something where you use filters to narrow down. Hey, I just want to send it to these 5 people, so I'm going to select these 5 rows, because it will also send emails to all the people in between as well. I have made that mistake.
Brett had a question about whether this would work for users on AVD.
I'm not sure what AVD is in that context.
I'm not familiar with that acronym either.
Is that like a construction cloud or something like that?
Azure Virtual Desktop.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can answer that one. Oh, will that work in a virtualized desktop environment? I think I get you now. I don't see why it wouldn't. Azure Virtual Desktop. Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't. Essentially, it's still just a AutoCAD running in an environment. So it shouldn't have any trouble with that. Now, as for Azure Virtual Desktop, there you could run into restrictions in your environment. You need to be able to access the command prompt to run the PowerShell statements. And I see Michael's got a question about advise me how to clear the temp folder. I would go into, and I'm going to share this on my screen here. I actually share a link to this. How to clear temp folder in the Autodesk environment, and then they have a link on, they have a process here. So like I said with my example user earlier, I don't actually go and type in this stuff. I just hit a button to send that, use Power Automate to send that email out. And then they get a link to this.
Is that the Windows temp file or the AutoCAD, the Civil 3D temp file?
That is the Windows temp folder.
Correct.
Yeah, the Windows temp folder, the bigger it gets, it kind of acts like a drag on your computer. And the reason is that there's the more files you have in any folder, it takes Windows longer to write to that folder. Would Alt plus to select specific rows fix the issue? I'm not sure, but I will have to try that. I am far from an Excel expert. There's a lot I can learn about Excel. But thanks for the question, Josh. I will definitely look at that. And I see Michael here has a question on where is the temp folder location. If you go into your File Explorer in Windows, let me go ahead and drag this over to the screen I'm currently sharing. Type in %TMP%. This is your Windows temp folder. So basically to clear this, and I'm not going to do it right now because I did it yesterday. I can just go in here, hit delete. It's going to go and delete these. Now you will probably run into some folders where you need to have administrative permissions to delete them. I usually just skip those anyway.
Or if you're looking for the AutoCAD temporary file, you can just type in prefix in AutoCAD.
Oh, are you talking about the?
I'm not sure which one, but either one, just to cover all the bases here.
Okay, yeah, that is yeah, okay, that is where AutoCAD is saving its files at. Yeah, I get that a little bit differently, but yeah. I'm not aware of any limitation for file size and performance with that folder getting overly huge.
Very good. Any other questions?
Well, I'll be posting more information online when Augie has its new experience up. I'll get the handout out there. I'll get you a sample Excel file and all the code I ran.
Yep. And make sure you jump over to the conference lounge after this.
Yeah.
Brian will be there if you want to ask some further questions or just general chit chat related to what we've covered here. It will definitely take a little while to digest this information. It's excellent stuff, Brian.
Yeah.
Really helpful. So thanks for sharing this stuff.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of great information in the webinar chat too. I'm gonna take a look at that too myself because there's some great tips there as well.
Yeah, or to put it in another way, Chad said this was freaking awesome. How's that? That's pretty good.
Thanks, Chad. I appreciate that because I tell you, this procedure has really given me a lot more free time to work on the other stuff I do.
Interesting. Now, wait. You're supposed to create free time so you can do other stuff, not do more work.
Well, no, I think you have the wrong idea. The whole idea of time saving and making yourself more productive is so you can do more work.
I'm not sure we got the same definition there, but anyway, again, thanks, Brian. And we will pause for 10 minutes and then be back at the top of the hour for the next session.
Thanks a lot, everybody.